Today we're talking about boundaries, part 2. What's stopping us from setting boundaries in our current relationship? Hey beautiful friends, Ashley Berges back, and today we're talking boundaries, part 2, about what's really getting in the way of us creating those boundaries in our current relationships. What's keeping us from doing it? What's holding us back? We know that we need them. We know that it'll lead to a healthier understanding and better relationships. So what's holding us back? The first reason why we fail to set boundaries is the F word. Fear. Yes. Fear of the other person, not accepting what we're saying, negating what we're saying, hating on our boundaries. We feel that that's going to happen and we're going to what? We're going to lose them. They're going to go away, okay? I understand that fear factor is real, okay? But there's a caveat to this. If we don't set the boundaries, eventually we'll end up losing the relationship anyway. And you ask me, Ashley, why is that? And that's because the thing is that every single relationship needs healthy boundaries to grow, okay? Boundaries are for growth and for learning about one another and understanding where other people stand. I mean, boundaries are created by the values that we have and by the things that we will do and the things that we won't do. And when we don't have boundaries in our relationships, well, there's a tendency of taking each other for granted, walking all over one another, right? Making decisions for the other person when the other person feels silenced, they feel almost like they're second, okay? And a lot of times what happens in these situations is it leads to a lot of disappointment and a lot of personal resentment. What I've found is that even though we have that fear of speaking up for ourselves, when we allow there to be no boundaries in the relationship, well, it usually turns into a toxic relationship where one person is taking complete advantage of the other person. Perhaps it could be like a manipulation type situation where one person's manipulating the other to do what they want. But the other thing is true too. When we don't stand up for ourselves and we hold it all in, we also get angry and resent as well. So what I've found is that the fear, that's mostly in our mind, and we're scared of losing the relationship. But if the relationship's not going to allow for healthy boundaries, it's probably not going to be healthy, and it's going to eventually deteriorate anyway, and it's probably going to turn into a toxic relationship that doesn't help us, but actually harms us and gets in the way of our positive growth. The next reason why we fail to create boundaries in our relationships is because oftentimes we suffer from a low self-esteem and a low self-worth, okay? And what does that mean? Well, it means that to some degree we feel unworthy, we feel unlovable, and we don't want to make boundaries because we don't want somebody to leave us, right? And so therefore we find ourselves putting the other person's needs ahead of our own. Okay, because we want to keep them. We want them to stay around. So whether it's doing all the dishes and doing all the cleaning, all the laundry, making dinner, making breakfast, washing the cars, doing whatever needs to be done, when you take on that because you don't want to lose the relationship, it goes from being a two-way relationship to being kind of a one-sided thing. In the beginning, the other person that's being pampered likes it and feels good about it and is like, oh, this is amazing. I've never felt this way or nobody's ever done this stuff for me. But over time, the other person begins to feel resentful. Now, why they feel resentful is because they feel as though the person that's doing everything, instead of doing everything because they love them, they're doing everything because they're controlling them. Okay, so the person that's getting all the good things done for them begins to feel resentful and that they're being controlled. And then all of a sudden they turn around and they start wondering what's really happening. And the reason why it got to this part in the first place is because there wasn't real boundaries, okay? Both people need to help out in the household if this is a romantic relationship where two people are living together, okay? Both people need to do things for one another. Both people need to contribute, right? And one person contributing to everything, doing everything all the time because they don't want to lose the other person, that's not a healthy relationship. And the other person taking and not giving, that's not a healthy relationship. So as we see here that oftentimes we fail to set these boundaries based on our self-esteem and self-worth, we probably need to take a step back and analyze where that began and how we can work on our individual self, right? To feel better about ourselves, but to also find that self-love. And the last reason why we fail to set boundaries in our current relationships is we just don't know how to create a proper boundary. So let's talk about that. When we're creating boundaries, when we actually begin to do it, we got to start off slow and steady. okay? It's not about creating all these huge boundaries and creating them in every relationship and doing it all in one day. And there's no cookie cutter way of doing it, okay? There's no one set boundary that you got to deal with. There's no book that tells you exactly how to create boundaries. But there is a technique and there is a form in how to do it. But better yet, the way that we create the best boundaries is to realize that when we create boundaries in our life, with all the relationships in our life, when we do that, it actually means that we care about creating a healthy relationship. What we're doing there is we're creating the guidelines for a relationship. We're creating what we're going to both do. We're creating what the relationship is based on. We're both understanding what that relationship is about. And we can then respect one another based on those boundaries, okay? And so in the next video, what I want to specifically talk about is how to set small, simple boundaries in your relationships, romantic and non-romantic, and how you can really elevate those boundaries to more sophisticated boundaries later on. But we got to start somewhere. Okay, and as we start off slow in this next video, when I show you and I explain how to do it, what happens is that's going to lead you to feel more powerful. You're going to begin to feel less fear in doing it, okay, because you'll have some experience in doing it. You'll also begin to get a better self-worth because you'll feel more empowered, and you'll also be standing up for yourself, okay, by saying how you feel and doing what you want, and that allows us to see and have more self-worth, and also leads to a more of a sense of self and sense of accomplishment. So that's what I'll be talking about in the next video. I hope this video has really helped you, because it's really important to understand what's been stopping us and getting in the way of us setting these boundaries, because when we're honest about this, we can actually move to the next level. Okay, don't miss the next video, and don't forget to please subscribe to my channel. And please share this content with other people. There's a lot of people out there that are in relationships. You might know some friends that are in some toxic relationships, or maybe some borderline toxic relationships, that really need to focus on this material to help them to maybe get their relationship back on target. Maybe for them to be able to speak clearly and honestly, and for them to feel as though they have a voice in the relationship. Everybody wants to be heard and know that they're being listened to. That's what we call respect. In the meantime, don't forget to live your true life.